And we've got J-Mac here, we got Louis Riddick, we got Mina Kimes, we got Dan Orlovsky. What's up, everybody? We're going to dive right in with Geno. His last start came for the Jets almost a decade ago, Week 7 of 2016. Since that time, Geno has played for 4 other teams, made a couple Pro Bowls. The Jets, well, no team has won less, thrown fewer touchdowns, or posted a worse total QBR than the New York Jets. How about this? Jets running back Braylon Allen posted his reaction to the Geno Smith trade, tweeting, "We ain't right back, though." Adam referenced this earlier. Remember, he said, wait, what was it that he said? I forget the quote right now. All right, we'll figure it out.
They tried to write me off.
I ain't right back. There we go. All right. The problem is, when you say that, you have to know the quote. I forgot it for a second. Dan, what is your reaction to this news? You see Geno Smith going back to the Jets.
Yeah. They now have an adult in the room, a professional in the building at that position, and that's not anything against Justin Fields, but we have a guy in Geno Smith that's been a starting quarterback for years in the NFL and has been in the NFL for a dozen years plus. And I think in reality, that's kind of what the Jets need. If you're the Jets and you look at some of the pieces that they've added, the biggest thing they need is somebody that gives them a chance on a week in, week out basis to be a competitive football team. Make no mistake about it. They are going to address this position, quarterback, in the 2027 draft for the long term. But for the right now, Geno brings competency. He brings adult feel. He brings a professional element to that room and certainly to their building, and that's a win for the Jets today.
I love the way you said that. Coming off the way the season went last year for the New York Jets, you needed to get veterans, high-character guys in the building, and Geno is that. You look at Demario Davis, who they signed in free agency, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who they traded for, veterans that are going to come in, and whatever the young guys that they choose to draft and the young guys that are on that roster, you have guys that can show them the way, mentor, and teach those guys. A ton of credit to the Jets here, just in the sense of Geno Smith in a day was going to become a free agent, and who knows if the Minnesota Vikings might have been interested in him, or the Pittsburgh Steelers, or whatever other team that was quarterback needy, that Geno Smith might have decided, hey, maybe that gives me a better opportunity. The Jets get ahead of it, trade for him, get him into the building, and now you're kind of a journey that Geno's gone on. He's returning back to the New York Jets where it all started, but in a completely different sense, where now he's a veteran that they can trust, and fans are going to be excited for Geno Smith coming back.
Yeah, reports are that he's excited about this being a full circle moment. And Mina, do you think this is a better opportunity for Geno than what he had in Vegas last year?
Well, Laura, it would be hard to be worse than what we saw in Vegas. I mean, that was probably the worst situation of any quarterback in the NFL for much of the season. The receiving group without Brock Bowers, you remember, was injured for several games, was a bottom 5 group, honestly, maybe worse than that. And the offensive line was a disaster with injuries there as well. And now he joins a Jets team that, for all of the flaws of the last few years of the roster, they have done a good job building that offensive line. It is young and ascendant, and undoubtedly, in my mind, an improvement over what Geno is playing behind in Las Vegas. You've got Breece Hall back there, Garrett Wilson. I think they need to add another receiver, but there is potential there, I think, for him to be surrounded by a pretty good supporting cast. Frank Reich comes in as a play caller, so you think he's probably going to, a lot of 11 personnel, spread things out, ball out quick, throwing over the middle of the field, short, intermediate. I think Geno is capable of executing that offense at a high level. He's just got to cut back on some of the bad decisions we saw last season. But I do think the improvement in circumstances could help that process.
Yeah, this was one of the more disappointing. Well, to put it bluntly, it was it really was a disappointing team last year. But, I think the most important thing about this transaction is the relationship, and I said this earlier, that he's going to have with Frank Reich, and the ability for the coaching staff overall to get more out of this offensive line that Mina is talking about. Because, look, this offensive line, 1-for-1, was very talented a year ago. But if you watch this football team, and we got a chance to watch them up close and personal, they were just so erratic in terms of their ability to execute and play with any type of consistency. So although they are great individual talents, some high-end number 1 draft picks, they just didn't play well. So they need to really up that in terms of their performance. Look, Breece Hall is one of the very best running backs in the entire NFL. They brought in a lot of veteran people on this football team that obviously aren't going to be there for the long term. But obviously, Aaron Glenn needs someone in the locker room. He needs a couple guys in the locker room to kind of like just clean out the mentality that has been there that he wasn't able to get corrected this past year. No matter what he did, it didn't work. So maybe he's now saying, hey, look, maybe we should get a bunch of guys like a David Onyemata, to come in there on the defensive side when you think about guys like Demario Davis. Those dudes are guys who have played a long time in this league, along with Geno, who know what it takes to be a pro and to win. And maybe they can have kind of like that kind of like positive impact on this organization going forward, because they're not really in the picture for the long term.
Yeah, I'm excited for Garrett Wilson. I mean, Mina mentioned it a little bit, but the floor was so low here. Like, Geno's got to be an improvement over what they had before.
Yeah.
The Jets were the only team you guys ever play 16 games and not have a single receiver over 400 yards or even reach 400 yards. Like, that's bizarre to even think about. Okay, another defensive signing for the Jets. We just heard some of those new names, but according to our Jets reporter Rich Cimini, the Jets signing former Bears cornerback Nashawn Wright to a one-year contract, source confirming there. Good value for the Jets, Wright. And remember, as Rich points out, Wright had 5 interceptions last season, 5 more than the Jets, who had 0. So a chance to take the ball away, that's something that Aaron Glenn is desperate for. Let's talk about the Jets division rival now in Foxborough. Adam Schefter and Jeremy Fowler reporting a 4-year, $80 million deal with former Packer Romeo Doubs with the Patriots. Doubs has 21 touchdown catches over his 4-year career, a higher total than any 2 other Patriots wide receivers combined in that span. Some wanted to see if they would go after A.J. Brown. Adam just told us recently that the door is not necessarily closed on that, but let's focus here on Doubs, who they did get. Mina, how do you feel about that fit for New England?
I love it. I mean, he's not the number one prototypical X receiver that the Patriots fans and organization have been waiting for, but I think he's an excellent replacement for Stephon Diggs, who was incredibly productive in this offense last year in terms of being a sharp route runner. He's really good on intermediate routes, similar to Diggs. He's 12th in yards per route run, tied with Diggs actually last year. He is a red zone threat in Green Bay. He was consistently productive in the end zone. And I think just a reliable target for Drake May, which is what they need. So, again, as a replacement for Diggs, I like it. It does not mean they should not continue to be active in the receiver market, either with a trade or in the draft. But I do think it is good value for who's a player in Doubs who has proven to be a solid veteran.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said a reliable wide receiver, because you look at the suddenness of a guy like Romeo Doubs, the way he gets off of the line of scrimmage and create space and get open. I think that's a weapon that for Drake May as a quarterback, that's a guy that you can trust. And that's what Stephon Diggs was able to bring to the offense. So I think as they move forward, the combination of him and then on the other side, you have Kayshon Boutte, a guy that got down the field and became the vertical threat for them a season ago. Now you mix in a guy like Romeo Doubs, where one guy is over there taking a safety or taking the top off of a defense, and another guy's getting open underneath, creating that space. So the combination of those 2 guys will work hand in hand, and also having Hunter Henry, a reliable tight end, I think it's the right move for New England as they continue to progress and improve as a football team.
Yeah, the mix is so important, right? In that room in particular, you got to kind of build it like a basketball team. You got to have guys who have complementary skill sets. You can't have everyone who looks exactly the same. Romeo, quite honestly, though, has a little bit of everything. He could play the X, he could play the Z, he could play the slot. He could run routes out of the backfield. Yeah. He can be a catch and run guy. He can be a 50-50 ball guy. So he really is. You may not look at him in the wide receiver picture overall in the league as a true number one, but he has number one versatility, let's put it that way. Because that's what all number ones have. You can line him up anywhere. He can do that. He may not be the top end guy, but this is, without a doubt, a level up for them in that wide receiver room and just what they needed, because he fits with everyone else.
Diggs was the only Patriot with even 600 receiving yards last year. He's going to be cut. Dan, how much of an impact do you see Doubs having on this offense, and specifically Drake May and his development that you want to see next season?
I think it changes the way they can play offensive football. I love Romeo Doubs. I think it's a significant loss for Green Bay. The 4 young stars that they have that are really skill position guys are their future. We saw Kayshon Boutte take a huge jump this year when it comes to down the field, big-bodied. You can kind of be the splash play type of guy that took the top off of a defense in many ways. And then you think about Travion Henderson, who's going to be their second-year back that became a focal point of their run game and their explosive element in the run game. Kyle Williams and the one-on-one take your shot down the field guy. And now Romeo Doubs, and Lewis is right, and so is J-Mac and MK on what he is. Do you get open at the line of scrimmage? He does. Do you get open at the top of routes? He does. Do you catch the ball on a consistent and strong basis with your hands? He does. I think, and if you think about Josh McDaniels in New England as their play caller, he's always notorious for, I don't need one, I need 4 or 5. That's kind of the way he goes about calling his offense. It's matchup based. It's matchup based. This is another matchup weapon for this offense, and I love it.
Yeah, and Dan, all those guys you're talking about, they're 25 or younger. A lot of youth there. Just quickly, Lewis, when you think about where they're going to pick, I mean, success in the NFL means you don't necessarily have the highest picks, but there are a ton of great wide receivers in this draft. They pick at the end of the first and the second round. Can they find some of the weapons that Mina's talked about it too there in the draft to make this team better?
You absolutely could. I mean, just think about the wide receiver from Washington, a guy like Denzel Boston, who would be another guy who's a different profile than anybody they have. He kind of looks like Matt Collins, but he's a much better route runner, a guy who can go in the slot and absolutely break you down, break your fifth defensive back down like nobody's business, run after the catch, contested catchability down the field. Yeah, they'll be able to get great value down there. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that pick right there, because the board can fall in so many different ways, as you know. You're just kind of sitting back chilling for about 2 hours until you go, man, a lot of the guys that we thought we were going to get aren't even here. So it'll be fun for them, but it's good to be picking late in the first.
Yeah, or I don't know, Dan. Maybe there's somebody there that they're really excited about. They're obviously going to be aggressive in trying to make sure they get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I also think tight end is very much so at play for this offense. It doesn't have to necessarily be a receiver in the draft. Lewis would know him greater than I, but I think some of the tight ends that are going to be in conversation late first round or a second round, I would go back to the way that Josh McDaniels likes to play football, likes to design football, creating matchups. 2 tight ends on the field was a big deal this past year. I think tight end is very much so in play early in the draft for them.
If you're a fan of the NFL, how could you not be excited right now with all the change we're seeing? Teams are getting better. So much is happening, and we've got it all for you right here. It's going to continue to happen on ESPN as we